Hinata come. You don't need to be ashamed. I've already seen much more than this.
Oh my god.
Hinata watched himself lean back into the pillow and Komaeda crawled into his lap.
What the fuck? Hinata didn't even realize he stood up at first until he felt Komaeda gently tugging at his sleeve, pulling him back into his seat. That sick bastard really has been filming us.
What do you think was going on with all those little cameras, Hinata-kun? Komaeda asked him, his face awash with sincere concern for Hinata's reasoning skills.
But like, is this some kind of sick joke?
Yes, I expect that exactly what it is. Komaeda was way too easygoing about this. The footage switched back to high definition. Soft focus close-ups and the audio quality is crisp as if embarrassing make-out sounds had been recorded in the studio. And not to cover his eyes with his hands, but his traitorous fingers remained parted, just enough to see his tongue push it away in his mouth. Yeah, I told you to forget that. And he didn't have enough hands to also cover his ears, so he heard him moan, echoes across the give him that yeah.
We have to stop this, right? Destroy the footage or burn down the theater or both just to be safe? What if someone walks in?
I'm fairly certain that destroying property is against the rules. Perhaps this actually is intended to be a motive. Is that the extent of your hope? Are you willing to kill to prevent others from seeing a video like this? Komaeda's expression and tone were unusually flat, but his eyebrows raised enough to let Hinata that this was a rhetorical question. That's what you gonna do? You gonna kill people?
No. It's ridiculous. No. Probably. It's just... On screen, Hinata's hands were working their way into Komaeda's underwear as he rolled his hips encouragingly. Hinata was trying hard to remember what this was leading up to. It started like so many evenings had recently, and he couldn't be expected to remember every single time Komaeda had invaded his personal space. On screen, Hinata squeezed on screen Komaeda's ass, eliciting a gasp from both Komaeda's at one time. It's a gasp. God. Hinata had no memory of this. Well, not exactly like this. Maybe it was CG. Very convincing CG. Beside him, Komaeda nodded at the screen, apparently reliving the moment. Hinata sank down in his seat, stuck his hand in the popcorn beside him, rifling through it like he was looking for something. He returned a big handful to his face, crunching down on the buttery bits loudly enough to briefly drown out the moaning on the screen. On-screen, Komaeda abruptly dropped into on-screen in Hinata's lap, tugging the waistband off his boxes away from his hips and dipping his head down to get a better look. Hinata nearly choked when he was suddenly exposed to the theater, a polite mass of shifting mosaic pixels that did that to protect his dignity. He swallowed the popcorn but coughed hard enough that Komaeda began worriedly thumping his back.
I did tell you that popcorn was dangerous at the movies, huh? Hinata-kun, are you alright?
I'm fine. Hinata reached for another handful of popcorn to show how fine he was, but thought better of it and leaned down instead to take a gulp of the Dr. Hopper in Komaeda's lap.
We can go down.
Komaeda hummed, and Hinata noticed that his hand still on his back was now tracing wobbly circles between his shoulders. Hinata sat back in his seat abruptly, trapping Hinata's hand behind him instead of shrugging it off as he was fairly certain he intended.
Oh, look! Komaeda said with the same casual interest as one might point out a bird landing in the windowsill. On screen, Komaeda was now fully leaned into Hinata's lap, head bobbing ridiculously while his hand was gripping with way more enthusiasm than Hinata's recollection of the event could possibly reconcile. The camera panned down slowly, Hinata's face, eyes shut, panting before cutting to much more revealing shot of Hinata, licking earnestly at the mosaic in his hands.
I can't watch this. Hinata grown continuing to watch it.
The continuing is terrible. You were clearly wearing the missing underwear reference earlier. And have been seen clutching mine already as well. Unless it's intended to be a flashback.
Hinata just looked at him.
We can leave if you want. Komayada made no move to get up. It must be so disgusting to be reminded all the time you wasted with me and in high definition, no less.
It's really not about that. Hinata tried opening Monokuma's app again on his handbook to see if there was like a pause feature or something, but all that appeared was a black screen reading, "Enjoy your movie." We can't just leave. If anything, Hinata would rather barricade the door. Sure, they'd be trapped inside, but that was better than the alternative. The idea that this would continue on a huge screen while God knows what is revealed to God knows who.
Oh, do you want to know the mystery of who stole your underwear? I suspect that they're setting it up to be me. The filmmaker may see me as a type of character. He looked a little sullen.
Hinata groaned and sat back, crossing his arms over his chest. Oh yeah, this scene can't go on that long, right? Wasn't there a mystery to solve? But it continued, in agonizing detail. Hinata didn't even remember it lasting this long in real life. Maybe he should be proud of himself. Hinata swallowed and tried to break up the awkwardness that he felt like he was experiencing all on his own while Komayada casually sipped his soda. Wasn't I supposed to be borrowing your underwear? Really taking the long road to get there, huh?
I guess we shouldn't expect a film like this to have a cohesive plot, right?
It was weird to hear Komayada making a reference to porn. Like he was some kind of regular person who just sat and watched porn. Maybe Hinata considered he read a book on stereotypes of human pornography once. Hinata startled when he heard his own stifled whimpering spike echoing out of the speakers, prickling his skin and leaving him with a visceral sensation. It should have been purely humiliating, and it definitely was, but wrapped in that shame was a part of him that didn't want to miss this opportunity to watch himself get off in the third person. On screen, Hinata's toes curled onto the mattress on either side of Komayada's thighs, and one of his knees bent sharply, and suddenly, as his grip on Komayada's hair tightened into a fist. Must be a good one, he thought. As if Komayada had ever done a less than stellar job. He suddenly felt Komayada's fingertips on his thigh. A slight touch at first, hesitantly applying more pressure until his hand rested fully and intentionally on his leg. They already filmed it, bro. Just a second. Oh, shit. It was probably a version of this scenario where they both pretended like either.
What the fuck?
What?
What they doing? They gone, bro. They getting to do. Oh my goodness.
It was probably in front of them. But pretended like either of them had any self-control or remaining dignity, and Hinata wasn't in the mood to pretend this was it. Despite the camera pointed right at them, an extremely unsettling implication that there was somehow more he couldn't see.
Thinking they freak on.
They were clearly already caught on camera, and it wasn't like it could get any worse. Sighing as if to convince himself this was some kind of chore he was resigned to, Hinata unfastened his belt buckle, sliding his zipper down until a triangle of blue and white boxers bludged out of space. Humming softly next to him, Komayada leaned against his shoulder while they both stopped to admire Hinata's blatant interest in the mystery movie.
I guess this was a good choice of film after all. His long fingers creeped into the slit of Na's underwear, skipping permeable altogether and going right for skin on skin contact. but the relief Hinata expected was drowned out by a different sensation.
Cold. He snapped, the hips jerking at the frigid, strangely clammy feeling of Komaeda's hand on him.
Komaeda whipped his hand away so fast it blurred.
Dang.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
He hurriedly wiped his hand on his pants, bumping against the dripping cup of Dr. Pepper he had been cradling moments ago. Komaeda's hands were usually cold, but that had been less than pleasant. What you gonna do, bro?
You can't just let him decide since he just got.
Bring that ass here, boy. And I was about to let Komaeda's deprecation spiral start over some condensation. He grabbed his thin wrist and pulled his hand back down, wrapping his fingers around top of Komaeda's and pressing his hand firmly against the bulge in his boxers. Komaeda let out a shock, wheezy laugh. I told you she was going black.
Something funny?
Not funny, just kind of small. He laughed again, a crumbling smile. Komaeda watched wide-eyed in darkness. Hinata lifted his hips, grinding his wiener through the fabric against Komaeda's palm.
See, you're warming right up.
Oh, I guess. Komaeda choked mid-sentence, swallowing his words instead of just nodding urgently against Hinata's shoulder. Oh my goodness, now that Komaeda's hand was such more tolerable tempered, Hinata pulled himself through the opening of his underwear to press against his bare skin again. He noticed now that all of Komaeda felt warmer. His cheeks on Hinata's shoulder, his hand on his thigh. Komaeda seemed completely entranced by Hinata's grip on him, and even part of Hinata hadn't expected that he'd still be holding on his tightly. He dragged Komaeda's palm across the heel of his wiener, leaving a damp trail behind. Komaeda had the fucking wet palms first, didn't he? Komaeda glanced up at the film. On screen, Hinata was melting in the bed as on screen Komaeda had taken a break to stop and had a rather one-sided conversation, lazily jerking him off while he excited to describe something he seen at the beach instead. Something about a squid. This was apparently the second time Hinata was hearing this, and for the second time did not process a single word of it. Not wanting. Oh my goodness, bro. Not wanting the Komaeda beside him to get distracted, he curled his middle finger, sliding his fingernail against the back of Komaeda's hand, drawing both of their hands' attention to the back of the present. Hinata wraps Komaeda's fingers around himself, lighting the screen around his fist, getting the indecent little moan out of him as though Komaeda was the only one being touched. He started to move both their hands together, and it felt kind of like jerking off, but Komaeda flooded his fingers just a little the way he always did. Hinata never quite gotten the hang of it, but he heard himself making a low sounds in his throat at the feeling of it. He squeezed Komaeda's hands tight and started moving faster, dragging his slender fingers hard over sensitive skin. He felt Komaeda's wrist jerk of his own accord, and the unexpected sensation only made his grip of Komaeda's hand tighter. Komaeda licked his fingers.
Lips.
And exhaled softly, looking like he had something to say. Hinata braced himself. Hinata-kun? It was almost a whisper, a good start. It must be so much better when you do it yourself, right? That distinctly wasn't true, but Hinata got the feeling he wasn't actually supposed to answer. I know you do it a lot, so I feel like I'll never actually reach your level.
That doesn't go the second one.
That's your response.
Obviously, it's better when someone else does it, or else there'll be no point to it. Not a pause, because the words he realized he was about to say were bad, but the weight of an unfinished statement sent him tumbling down anyway. Or else there'll be no point of doing it with someone else. Ooh. And so Hinata fell. Komaeda gave a smile so tight it flattened his words as he said them.
Hinata-kun, I'll just be happy that you might consider being with me a step up from jerking off alone in your room.
That's not what I meant. Good. Well, fuck. Commander smiled up at him genuinely this time and allowed the moment to slip into the past.
I'll do my best then.
Oh my gosh.
He fluttered his fingers again and Hinata gasped. Hinata ran his free hand through his hair until it stopped to tighten into a fence. He started thrusting his heels up into Komada's grip, the seat squeaking under him with emotion. On screen, Komada had finished speaking and returned his mouth to his previous task. On screen, Hinata practically squeaked on the last syllable of Komada's name as he came, rendering the last of his sounds incoherent. The camera pulled back again, granting a more complex picture of the moment. Hinata arched off the bed while Komada diligently sucked the life out of him until all the tension was gone from his limbs and he settled back into the pillows with a sigh. What the fuck you got me reading, bro? See, that you know I ain't meant to be reading no more of this. On screen, Komada tipped his hand and wiped his mouth. No, licked his fingers and sat back, apparently to admire his work.